إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن خير الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وفي رواية كل ضلالة في النار. وقال تعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد يمحق الله الربا ويربي الصدقات إلى آخر الآية. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الربا يؤدي إلى الفقر وإن كسر أو كما قال رواه البيهقي. All praise is due to Allah, the Creator, the Sustainer, and the Maintainer of this universe. And thousands of blessings be upon the final Prophet who was sent as a mercy to the whole universe. I welcome you all for this workshop. I thank you all to participate in this conference, humanity conference, which is done only for the sake of Allah to guide the people towards the straight path, the path of Islam. Inshallah, we are going to see some things you might be knowing, few things about economics and even about things which are related to economics which are there in the Quran and the Sunnah. The only thing is that we don't give proper attention to it. It is there in the Quran and in the Ahadith. In several places Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions what are the ethics of business. What is real money? And how a Muslim should be a perfect, honest businessman? How a society should be a just and perfect society where there will be a lot of justice and there should be no oppression. Here in this workshop, I'm going to share you something very important today. Things which we want to know. We have several questions in our mind, but we don't know the answers. Because all these things are there in the books, in the curriculums of various courses. The students, they read it, but they don't read it attentively. And sometimes these things are like hidden secrets. So inshallah, I will be telling you about certain things. The screen is not visible, right? It's not clear. So I apologize for that. We can't blame the sun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the sunlight is a mercy. We can't blame the sun here. Just because of the sun, it's a glare of the sun. Okay, so I'll just try to tell you. And some pictures might be visible, I suppose. Right? So, here today I'm going to speak to you about some macroeconomic issues. Macro in the sense, in the global level, what is happening in the economy. And according to Quran and Sunnah, I'm going to pinpoint what are the errors, what are the flaws which are there present in our system. And I'm going to tell you certain things which is very important for our daily economic and financial lives, which will save us, will save our wealth as well as our friends, our relatives. It's for everyone. I'll tell you about the bankers, the banks and the stock market, how they are cheating us, how they are draining out our wealth. I'm going to tell you about the history of money. What was real money? Today we have money in the form of note. It is a paper. Before hundreds of years, before 50 years maybe, what was the form of the money, how it was. These things inshallah I'll be telling you, and according to the Quran and Sunnah I'll try to give some solutions. All these things, that is the study which I have done by reading books, by discussing with the scholars who are related to this field. I have done some analysis, and today, alhamdulillah, I'm standing here to share these things to you. Right? And today, inshallah, I'm also giving you a homework to go at home and think how can we work to solve these kind of problems, inshallah. So, are you able to see this? It's very dim, right? Are you able to see that? Change the background. It will take time. It's a PowerPoint show. Right? Okay, I'll put more effort. I'll read out, no problem. Right. So I want all of you to be interactive instead of just sitting and listening to my boring speech. I want you to be very interactive, inshallah. So you can ask questions, inshallah. I'll be able to answer you. If I'm not, inshallah, later on in the future, I will speak with the analysts, with the people who are knowledgeable in this field. I will reply you, inshallah. So these are some questions which come into our mind. Why there is a general increase in the prices today? Why gold prices are on the rise? Before 30 years, that is in 2000, 1 gram of gold cost around 440 rupees. Now it is around, anyone? 1 gram of gold. Can anyone tell me what is the price? Exactly, 2,700. Exactly, mashallah. So, why the gold price is increasing rapidly? What is the reason for that? Who is controlling it? Why it has to rise? Why doesn't it fall? There is no fall in the price. We have seen in the history. Before 50 years, gold, that is 1 gram of gold, was just 10 rupees. Can you imagine? Can you buy a gold coin of 1 gram for 10 rupees? Can you imagine now today? No, we can't imagine. It's like a dream world. Right. The next question, why Indian currency is lesser in value than any other foreign currency, maybe US dollar, euros, or Australian dollar, or Canadian dollar, anything. Right? It is lower than the Malaysian dollar in value. Why it is? What is the reason behind it? The next question can be, why the fuel prices are rising? Fuel. There are also very important commodities in the market, like petrol, diesel, even LPG. It comes under fuel, right? Petrol, diesel, LPG, right? Kerosene. So many things are there. And I think you'll be knowing it that the diesel price is raising 50 paise each week. Every week it is being increased for 50 paise. So why it is rising? What is the big deal? What is the reason behind it? So today, inshallah, I will try to explain you these things, and inshallah, I hope that you will understand. So if you see in the media, that is in the news, in the headlines, or in business news, usually it is boring for us to see business news channels, right? Many things we don't understand, all are technical jargons, so we just skip off. It's of no need for us. It's of no use for us. We watch only things which is useful for us, right? So people have different tastes. They see Islamic programs or they see entertainment programs according to the Iman Islam. It's their choice. But these programs they don't even watch. They don't like to watch because it is not related to us. Is it related to us or not? This is a question, if I'm not wrong. Is it related to us or not? Yes, for most of us, for all of us, it is related. Right? Because it's all about money. Why do we work for in the office? Why do we earn? Why do we do business? Why are we traders? Just for money. Right? So, we have to have knowledge on these things. What is happening in the market? What is the stock market? What is the NSE, BSE? And don't fear, I'm not going into deep things. I will just tell you the schemy part. I will not go into details. I will not tell you things which are more technical. I will be very simple. I'm not a very technical person in this field. Inshallah. Right? So, if we see the news or read the newspaper, we get terms like inflation, recession. This word recession is very famous. Right? So, many of our boys came out from Dubai. They came back to our homes. They said because of recession, we lost jobs. Because of recession, I did not get job there. Companies have been closed. Right? Market is down because of recession. What is the recession? Because credit crunch is another word. Bankruptcy is another word. Bankruptcy you might be knowing. When a bank gets bankrupt, that is when it goes to 100% loss, it has to close its organization. So all of these words, they come into the news channel or in the newspaper. We never notice it. Right? I want to tell you one thing, that Islam is not just a religion of just rituals or modes of worship like Salah, Zakah, Hajj, Saum. You know very well, you would have listened in many speech, many lectures, you have read in the books that this word, this line which says Islam is a way of life. You would have heard it, you would have read it, right? So Islam gives guidelines for everything, even if it is a social issue, it's an economic issue, political issue, or issues related to family. So Islam gives answers, it gives solutions to everything. Basically, I'm a teacher in a school and I teach many subjects. And at the same time, I teach Islamic studies as well. When I teach science, when I teach physics, or when I teach biology, I try the utmost level to quote a hadith or a Quranic verse first, which is related to the subject which I'm going to teach, and then I start. Alhamdulillah. Why I'm telling you is this, that it is very important that we present to the people anything with the perspective of Islam. Because, as you know, Islam has a solution for everything. Right? So, inflation, recession, credit crunch, bankruptcy, these words, they have some meaning. They are also important to us. Inshallah, in the next slides we are going to see how we are going to relate it with Quranic ayahs, ahadith. Right? Okay, inshallah. So, I don't think you are able to see that slide. So this slide consists of some buildings. This is a picture of Dubai skyscrapers, which are just empty, which are half built. Now this is because of recession. That is, what is recession? I am going some basic things because in further when we move on, these terms might come, you won't understand. So I'm telling you the basics now, right? In a very short way. I'm not going to bore you up, inshallah, right? So what is recession? Recession is nothing but a state of a society or a market where the goods are there. The goods, the products or the goods might be anything. It might be a building, a skyscraper, or a car, or an aeroplane, anything. So goods will be there, in a market, but no customers will be there to buy. Right? If there is no one to buy these goods, what will happen to those employees who work to make their products, make those goods? They will not get proper salaries, or the companies would have to lay them off, or the companies should have to shut their companies and go off. Right? This state is called as recessions, where the products will be there, but there will be no customers to buy them. This is called recession. When recession happens, the economic activity of that country or nation goes down. This is the same which happened in Dubai. Okay, so we move on to inflation. So what is inflation? Inflation is nothing but the general rise of the prices in the market. Inflation is nothing but the rise in the price of the market. Any kind of products, maybe grocery products or commodities or things like oil, petrol, diesel, anything. If the prices are increasing very rapidly, it is called as inflation, high inflation. Another thing is also there, it is called hyperinflation. In hyperinflation, the prices will go crazy. How do we check the prices of gold? That is the gold merchants. They have to check the price the day and the night. Anyone who is there who is a gold merchant? Any gold merchant is present here? No one? Okay. So a gold merchant has to check, even he has to check some 10 times a day. He has to keep on checking for the prices of the gold or silver, maybe. So in hyperinflation, what will happen is the prices of all the things, maybe even food, shoes, or the clothes we wear, the prices will rise like crazy. In 2 days, the price of an egg, within 2 days, the price of an egg can go from, what is the price of an egg now? One egg, 4. In 2 days, it can become 200, or in just 2 hours, it can become 4,000. That is called hyperinflation. Now you may be wondering that I am telling some things which are not present, which didn't happen, but it happened in history. It happened in history. I will show you inshallah in the upcoming slides. So, are you okay with inflation? What is inflation? You know, right? Alhamdulillah. So, even in inflation, the people have to work more. Because of this, you fight with the boss. Because of inflation in the market, you fight with the owner, with your company, that they are not giving a hike for you. They are not giving a proper hike. They are not increasing your salary. Now your salary is not meeting your expenses. There is no savings at all. In inflation, there will be no savings at all. So this is called as inflation. Now the outcome of inflation, as you see in the picture, right? I think it is very dim here, so you have to manage inshallah. So this is a trolley here, it's a supermarket trolley. In 1998, and inside the trolleys there are some goods. Many goods are there. Some 30, 40 goods are there. In 2005, they are less. In 2012, they are very, very less. Right? And the money which is spent in 1998 to buy such products of huge numbers is the same. 100 rupees. Even in 2005, you spend the same 100 rupee note, but you got less products. In 2012, you got for the same 100 rupees, very, very, very less products. That is called as inflation. Now what is GDP? If I am going too technical, please your hands, I will explain you again. Am I going too technical here? MashaAllah. Okay, so what is GDP? GDP is nothing but gross domestic product. This is the full form. I'll tell you what it is. It is the entire income of a country for one whole year. Right? It's an entire income which a country achieve for one whole year. Now that year will be decided by our nation. Maybe from April to April, June to June, right? It's an entire income gained by a country, a nation. Now what is GDP per capita? GDP per capita is that is the GDP which we have. For example, a GDP of a nation, for example, it's 1,000 rupees. For example, just an example, small example. The GDP of a nation is 1,000 rupees, and in that country there are some 100 people. For example, now that 1,000 rupees, that is the GDP of the whole country, is distributed in what way? That is, how many people I said? 100, right? So how it goes? How it goes divided? That each person, how much he gets from that? If it is divided equally, then 10-10. We go 10-10. Right? That is GDP per capita. Right? So this is GDP per capita. So you know what is GDP and you know what is GDP per capita. Now I'll tell you about recession cycle in a very short manner. Recession cycle is nothing but an artificially done process. In Dubai, in 2005 it seems, if I'm not wrong, what happened was, there was a surge in money. That is, a lot of multinational companies, they wanted to get loans from the banks. They got loans in millions of money. Millions of money. And they started to build their skyscrapers. You know that in skyscrapers, what are there? There are companies. No other companies. There are firms. So they start to build huge buildings. People also bought cars, luxury cars. They got everything, whatever they want from the banks. That is loan on the basis of interest. On the basis of interest. So skyscrapers were built, cars were bought, and suddenly what happened? The banks, they raised the interest rates. These things, they happen manually. It is not a coincidence. This is a targeted mission. So suddenly the banks, they increase the interest rates. Now the builders, the owners of skyscrapers and other commodities or machinery or cars or anything, they thought that it is not profitable for them because they have increased the interest rates. They would not be able to cope up by paying back the banks. So what it did was they sold everything to the bank and they ran away. So what happened was, now 90% of the skyscrapers went to the hands of the banks. Now if you go to Dubai, most of the skyscrapers, they are owned by the banks. Maybe HSBC, maybe HDFC, or Deutsche Bank, or any kind of banks, multinational, international banks. Now all these skyscrapers, they end up in the hands of whom? The bankers. Now you can understand now. This is the plan. I'll tell you in the ending, inshallah, what is the outcome of this, right? So this is called as recession cycle. How it is done? First, people are lured towards technology, towards advancement. Hey, you can build a skyscraper. You can buy this. You can buy that. You can live in luxury. So they go and get the money from banks on the basis of interest. They start to build. Suddenly they increase the interest rates. So they think we will not be able to pay them back. So they lay off. That is, they sell it to the banks. Because they have a process. If the people can't give the money, they take the ownership of their products. Right? So this is all man-made things. And the main cause of all these things is the system in which we are living, which is called as capitalism. Otherwise we can call as a riba-based, that is interest-based economy. You know, in Arabic, interest is called as riba. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, Yamhaqullahu riba wa yurbis sadaqah. Allah will destroy riba, that is interest, and He will give increase to the sadaqah. Now we have a message here that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will one day will destroy the riba. Right? Will destroy riba, but at the same time He will give increase to the sadaqah. We often see that when we give sadaqah, the money goes out of the pocket. We see that. Right? But it just doesn't go out of the pocket, but it is increasing either your rewards or maybe later on in the same life it might come back in increased manner. So this is the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what are the backbones of our economy? One is the riba based system and another one is the stock market, which is pure gambling. Anyone who is acquainted, that is, who have knowledge about stock market here? No one, mashallah. Right. So the severity of riba is mentioned in the Holy Quran. And that is, Allah and His Messenger will wage war against those who indulge in the business of riba. And Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he cursed the people. La'anallahu akilu riba wa muki. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has cursed the giver and the taker, both. That is, the giver and the taker of the riba. He has cursed both of them. And even those who are mushahid, that is, who witness it. And the scholars of Islam, the shuyukh, they mention that even those people are include those who work in the banks, those who indulge in supporting the banking system. And the shuyukh have given the fatwa that whoever uses a credit card is also in a plain evil. It's haram. They have given a fatwa. Right? And what is the result of riba? As I said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will destroy it. And Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has prophesied that riba yuaddi ila al-faqri wa in kasra. The riba will end in penury. That is, in poverty, even if we are able to see that it is huge. Even if we are able to see that it is huge in amount. Now you will be able to see people how much of wealth they have with them in the coming slides, inshallah. So what has this system did? The system has artificially, it has divided rich nations. That is, divided the world into rich nations and the poor nations. So this is artificially done. So we don't have to think that Asians or the people in the Middle East are incapable. They don't have any skills. They don't have any talents. Only the Europeans, the white people, they are talented. They have skills. It is not like that. This is artificially done by this kind of system. And it causes an imbalanced economy. You will be seeing slide by slide, inshallah. And the most important thing is the world's wealth is transferred into the hands of very, very few people. It is being transferred to the hands of very, 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 very few people. Now the ratio, inshallah, you will be seeing in the coming slides. We will have a break in within half an hour, inshallah, at 12. And it also brings poor nations to the subjugation of Western nations. We become slaves of Western nations. Inshallah, in the further slides, you'll be able to see all these things in detail. So, for example, these are some facts which you are unable to see here. I'm going to tell you. Right? So, you know Walmart? It's an MNC, Walmart. Now, Walmart's annual sale is twice the Indian government's budget. It is twice the Indian government's budget. Right? I'm giving you a few facts. If you go to the internet, You can get hundreds of thousands of facts. Fact number 2. A number of people that takes to fill a mid-sized aeroplane. Approximately 300 people. Right? 300 people have more wealth than the population of India, China, US and Brazil. That's 300. VS, these 4 countries of the world. India, China, almost they have largest population, right? And even US, Brazil. Fact number 3. 1 billion children worldwide are living in poverty. 1 billion children living in poverty. And a UN report states that 1/3 of the world's poorest people, they live in India. 1/3. That is 33% of the world's population, they reside in India. They are in India. So, we come back to some technical things here. Very few technical things. That is, the GDP of India is about very near to 2 trillion. And it has the 10th place in 2001. Which place? 10th place. Right? It's a good achievement, right? How many countries are there in the world? 165, mashallah, 165, almost 165. Some nations are there which are not recognized. They are there in Africa. We don't know. Right? The UN doesn't recognize. Right? So, almost there are 165 nations. India has the 10th place in highest GDP. But the GDP per capita, the place is 141. Can you understand now? Can you understand? Can anyone explain this? Yes?
Population is large than other countries.
No. See, in GDP, India has the 10th place, but in GDP per capita, it is in 141 place in the whole world. Yes? Yes. No. What you said? Improper distribution. Very good. Mashallah. So, 1 minute I will have my what? So, brother at that end, he said the correct answer. There is a lot of inequality. There is a lot of improper distribution. For example, recently they had a survey of world's richest men. And they found out that Mukesh Ambani, the owner of Reliance Communication, is the world's richest person. Now, how much money does he have? Some 63.3 billion US dollars. 63.3 US dollars. Now this man, Bill Gates, he has some 53, if I'm not wrong, 53 billion US dollars. Now how can a person from a third world, that is, India comes under third world? There is a differentiation between nations. The poor nations are called as third world nations. And they are, just for the namesake, they are called as developing nations. The truth is they have never developed at all. Right? The developed nations are mostly the Western nations. So, our country is a third world country. Now, all the researchers, the analysts, they baffle. How can this man from a third world nation become the world's richest person? Well, there is a lot of poverty. There is a lot of sufferings in India. And how much money he has? 63.3 billion US dollars. So now you can understand the inequality in the wealth distribution. I am going to tell you some more facts. In India, there are almost 80% of the people who earn below 20 rupees per day. Below 20 rupees per day. Right? Can you imagine their lives, their sufferings? No, we can't. We can't even imagine. So though they don't even earn $1 a day, even not half a dollar. Right? So this is so much staggering for us. Right? So there is a lot of inequality in India as well as in the global level that I'll show you today, inshallah. So this system has divided the world into developed nations and into 155 undeveloped. That is, in the UN, what they say, developing nations, third world country. So there are 155 undeveloped nations. The brother there, he said 165 nations are there. So in that 165 count, there are 155 undeveloped nations. Now you can imagine the state, the condition where the global population is living. So we have this developed nation, undeveloped nations. The developed nation, they have the comfort, they have luxury, they have the best infrastructure, they have good medical equipments, infrastructures, educational institutions, they have the best in the world. While the undeveloped nations, they don't have anything, but they live in poverty, they do cheap labor jobs, they have no jobs, they have no facilities, and they have no one to ask for these things. SubhanAllah. So this is poverty manufactured. I didn't say this. The researchers, the analysts, whatever I'm putting here on the slides, it is there in the books. I'm not telling of my own. Right? I'm not a student of economics or finance. Right? And why do the Muslim, so we come to our brothers, why do the Muslim countries, they are suffering from high corruption? Because of poverty. Right? Because the elite, that is the people who rule the world, right, through their techniques, the elite, they have targeted, wantedly they have targeted nations so that they make them poor. Right? Like, which is the nation which has the largest Muslim population? Very good, mashallah. Indonesia. It has the largest Muslim population. What is the second? India. Mashallah, very good. Third, if I'm not wrong, it is Pakistan. It is not Bangladesh. Right? Okay. So, if you see, all these nations are poor nations. Indonesia, highest population. It's a very poor nation. Right? So this is called as poverty manufactured. And African nations, they are almost poor nations. They are all poor nations. And what the Africans do? They work in the gold mines. They work in the diamond mines. And they give it to whom? Those multinational companies who are there in US, in the UK, in Australia, or somewhere in European nations. Right? So, they get the gold from their lands. It goes to whom? It goes to whom? It goes to some other people who are living there in Western nations. So this is called as poverty manufactured. And what did Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam say? يَكَادَ الْفَقْرُ أَنْ يَكُونَ كُفْرًا. Poverty may sometimes lead to disbelief. Poverty will lead to disbelief. So, if, for example, if you give a dawah to a brother or anyone, what do you pray? Why do you work? Why can't you allot a few minutes for Allah's power? Suddenly you would say, if I don't work, who will give money to me? Who will take care of my children? Right? Because of his poverty, he has to do a kufr. He has to skip the prayers and he has to do the labor job. Right? So this is what our beloved Prophet ﷺ taught us. رِكَاةَ الْفَقْرُ أَنْ يَكُونَ كُفْرًا. رواه البيهقي. So what happened after this? What is the outcome of the poverty? That you know very well. human trafficking, there is corruption, there is civil wars which is happening today in African nations. You switch on the TV, you can see CAR, Central African Republic. War is going on. In South Sudan, war is going on. Hundreds of people are killing each day. There is a lot of killing, murders. And you know very well, Rasulullah has said in the end times, there will be Hajj. And the Sahaba asked, what is Al-Hajj? Ya Rasulullah, he replied, killing. Killing. People would be killed each day. If you see the record, hundreds of thousands of people are killing today, mostly in Muslim nations. Mostly in Muslim nations. We can easily agree this. So this system has created world poverty and slavery. Okay, so now we move on to the banking system here. I will be very short, I will be very simple, I will not make things complicated inshallah. And if you can't understand, please raise your hand, you can ask doubts. Right? So, and you have to be very attentive because these things are little minute. Right? Because even I have to prepare and come. Because sometimes I will forget. I will forget the concept. Because these things are very minute and they are wantedly made these things minute. So that it doesn't, they are not apparent to us. So that we just skip it. We don't want this, we don't understand, we don't want this. Khalas. Right? So these are very minute things. So I request your full attention to my speech. So the masters, right? So the bankers, especially the IMF. So people who are related to economics, finance field, you know very well, you would have read in the books regarding IMF. The full form is International Monetary Fund. Can anyone explain who are these people, what they do? Just in 4-5 words. What is IMF? Who are these people? Yes? It's a bank. What it does? Money do? MashaAllah. Right. And what do they do then after giving money? They? Very good, MashaAllah. He has the knowledge. Very good, MashaAllah. Your name, brother? Syed. MashaAllah. Right, so IMF is a private bank. It is not owned by the US. It is not owned by any other nation. It's a private bank. Same as the World Bank. Same as the World Bank. So the IMF and the World Bank, now their job is to help countries, help poor countries like our nation, India, or maybe Philippines, maybe some African nation, or maybe Indonesia. So what's their job is to give a helping hand, right? So what they do is they approach nations, right? They approach nations. Can you see that? Yeah. So they help financially, right? So what they do is they send their agents, who are called economic hitmen. You know, there is a very good book in the market which you can buy. I think you know it. Some of you would know it. The book's name is The Confessions of Economic Hitman. It's a very, very good book. The Confessions of Economic Hitman. Now, who is a hitman? A hitman is a person who hits nation with a bullet of loan. So he goes to a nation. For example, a hitman goes to Philippines or Indonesia. He speaks with the government. He tells them, see, your nation is very poor. The infrastructure is not good. It is not fine. It is not to the international standards. You can't come into globalization. You know what is globalization? Globalization is like a free market. It links with all the nations in the world and they can do easy marketing. Easy. They can create global markets. So he tries to convince them and they agree. So the IMF or the World Banks, they give loans in millions or maybe billions of dollars. So once they have got the loan, For example, a nation got a loan of $500 million, then that's it. That's the end of the nation. Because they will be never able to pay it back. That's it. Right? So this is a very vicious cycle. So this is wanted to learn so that the country sinks in debt. Right? So what they do is, another more smart thing is, when they give the money to the country, they also provide the companies who have the skills to build the infrastructure. For example, the bridges, hospitals, or the skyscrapers. So when the moment they give the money, again they take back the money and give it to the companies. That's it. So these companies, they land on the nation, they land on their nation's land, then they start the construction, right? And they build the roads, the highways, the airports, the railway system, all those things which is needed for globalization. They build it and they go. And the nation is now sunk in huge debts. It can't pay it back. The productivity of the nation goes down due to some policies, right? Other things I will say you in the coming slides, right? So now you have understood who is IMF, who is World Bank, and who is economic hitman, what is his job, and what happens when he hits a country, right? So here is a list of the nations which shows how much debt they have with the interest. Can you see? United Nations, US has some $16 trillion of national debt. $16 trillion. Right? Do you know how many zeros are there in trillions? You know how many zeros are there? Can anyone?
10 zeros.
That's absolutely wrong answer. Very, very good wrong answer. Yes. No, excellent wrong answer. No. 15 zeros. It consists of 15 zeros. Now US is at the top. It has the first rank in having $16 trillion in debt. It has to pay back to maybe for IMF or World Bank, right? Then comes United Kingdom, $9 trillion. Then comes Germany, France, Netherlands, Spain. So you can see the pattern here. Most of them are European nations. They are not there. They are very back. I'll show you the statistics of India also. Right? They are not there. Asians are not there. Asian countries. Most of them are European nations. Right? So we move on now. Right. Now, since the country has been sunk in huge debts, right? I have told you that it is the banker's job to hit them with unpayable debts. Now what happens is the international community puts pressure on that nation, on that particular nation, to change the policies. First policy, maybe first policy if I am not wrong, right? According to our research I am telling you, first policy might be decrease your currency's value against dollar. Should not be $1 equal to 1 rupee. It should be 1 equal to 50, 60, 100, or like Indonesia, it is 1,000. Right? Decrease your value. And what they will tell, if you go today and check in Google, go to Wikipedia, put dollar or, not dollar, currency depreciation. It is called currency depreciation. It is clearly written. Because the countries, they can't pay the debts, the international community tells them to degrade their currency. It is clearly written. It's a truth. But we don't know. Right? And we don't want to know because it is not related to us. Brothers, if you go to any nation, foreign nation, especially European and US nations, if you do an exchange of your money, you start to cry. You will give them a full suitcase full of money to them, they will give you 2 notes. Will you not cry? You like it? Subhanallah. Right? So, you have to reduce the value of your currency. That is called as currency devaluation. You have to become, these are conditions which I am telling you. Right? Few conditions, there might be hundreds of conditions. We don't know. Right? They might tell, okay, you have to become a member of WTO. Can any brother tell what is the full form? Yeah, World Trade Organization. Okay. Okay, you have to become a member of WHO also. What is the full form of WHO? World Health Organization. So like that, the list goes on. Right? You have to become a member in that, this. You have to come under globalization. Now, everything starts. Right? The country becomes more poorer and poorer. People like us, right? We become slaves. We become slaves. We have to work hard. We have to work very hard to earn a few pennies. Right? So we move on now. Can you see the picture? It's just a representation of currency. So what is the value of $1 today according to Indian money? Right? Sorry? Approximately 62 rupees, right? I just saw today it was 62, nearly. 62.5. Mashallah, jazakallah. Very good. So, this is the condition today. Just before maybe 8 months, it was 57. 57, very bad. 57 to 60, how much? 61? 62.5. It's very bad. It's a very, very bad record for India. International level, it's a very bad record. How it happened, right? So, when the currency is devalued, it is a problem for the politicians, right? For the economists people, right? For the scientists, correct? It's not a problem for us, correct? Yes? You don't know. You want options? Correct? Wrong? You don't know? None of the above. Sorry? You don't know. The answer is, it's a problem for us all. Right? So how it is, you will see in the slides. So let us see some global currency rates now. Let us compare the dollars with the other currencies of the world nations. Right? Why I am comparing with the US dollar? Again, it's a different story, I'll tell you. So can you see the numbers there? This one, you can't see? Okay, I'll read out. Right? It's a job for me. 1 US dollar is equal to 1,614 Somali shilling. Right? 1 US dollar is equal to 4,970 Zambian kwacha. It's a currency name. 1 US dollar is equal to 9,650 Indonesian rupiah. I took this before 1 year. I don't know what is the rate now. You can go and check. Right? 1 US dollar is equal to 20,000 XXX dot Vietnamese dong. 20,000. 20,000. Can you imagine? Right? Okay. So now we will do a small survey, like going to Indonesia, and checking the rates, the prices of the commodities. Basic commodities: water, petrol, bread, egg. One cup of tea costs around 1,000 to 3,500 rupees. One basic meal costs around 5,000 to 10,000 rupiah. That is in Indonesian currency. A small bottle, that is a distilled water, right? It costs around 1,000 rupees. That is rupiah. It is just 600 ml water bottle. Petroleum gas, it is around 1,000 rupiah per liter. right? It's a small survey which I did 1 year back. I don't know what's the rate now. You might have to go and do your homework, right? So this is the condition in Indonesia. What's the condition in Vietnamese nation? We don't know. We have to do the homework, right? So currency denomination. Usually in Indonesia, they have to, if they have cash, they have to always carry big sacks to carry cash. So they depend on cards. Instead of cash, they always have the cards, like debit or credit card, or else they have to have big sacks to carry the cash. They can't have in the wallet because everything is there, it is very high in price, right? Okay, can you imagine? This is the state, this is the condition in Indonesia. If a person is working in a company, what his salary would be? Maybe lakhs, maybe in crores, maybe in crores. You just do a ratio check. Simple mathematics. The simple mathematics, right? Can you just imagine what would be their salary? So that is why they travel, they migrate to other nations. If you go to Saudi, if you go to Middle East countries, lot of Indonesians are there, lots of Philippines are there, because their lives in their nations is like hell, right? Indonesians, they are our Ikhwan, they are our brothers, right? So that is why they do lots of crimes in Middle East. They do lots of crimes. They do lots of evil. Again, that hadith, يَكَادَ الْفَقْرُ أَنْ يَكُونَ كُفْرًا. Right? Poverty is the main reason. Poverty is the main reason. Now, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he came to this world, one of his mission was to eradicate poverty, eradicate slavery. What did he say? What dua did he make? Ya Allah, make me among the poor, resurrect me among the poor. Right? And Masaki, who is she? The mother of the believers, Zainab bint Khuzaimah. He was called Masaki, the mother of the poor people. He was very much close to the poor people. She would help the poor always. Right? There is a deep connection between Islam and poor. Right? So, this is the condition, this is the state. Right? And if you can see the notes are like 1 lakh rupee note, single note. We have maximum, at the maximum we have 1,000 rupees note, right? They have 10 lakhs, 1 lakhs, 20 lakhs, notes like this. Right? That is the people in Indonesia and Vietnamese people, they have this kind of denominations, currencies. So according to Hindu, that is the Hindu paper report, in January 2030, I took it from the newspaper, that is 1 year back, India has borrowed 365 billion US dollars from different foreign sources. 365.30 billion US dollars. And today, the analysts, the economists, they agree, they admit that we could never pay it back. Because already we are in deficit. You know what is deficit? You know what is deficit? Anyone knows what is deficit? Yes, that one. Sorry? Yes, expenses more than income. MashaAllah. Very good, correct answer. Right? So we are already running a deficit. Will we be able to pay? No. Never. Allahu Akbar. Right? We don't know. Right? So we have borrowed this much of money. We never know how we're going to pay it back. Right? So why we have borrowed this much of money? Because of wars. Right? You know what is war game? It's all politics. Because of wars, because we have to build good infrastructure. Is India a good place to live? Nice, it has nice infrastructure? Maybe some few places, that's it. So where has the money gone? Gone, right? So India ranks 28 in the world, that is in terms of level of external debt it owes. What is the ranking? 28th. Right? Alhamdulillah, we are not in the 10th, inside the 10th category. Right? Okay, now in 1970, what are they? Do you people want a break or shall I continue? Shall I continue? Yes. So it's not boring, right? Okay, in 1970, if you are able to see the picture here, 1 rupee was equal to just 13 US dollars. You can see the 1 rupee note. It was the time when Britishers were there in our country. Right? So it was just 1 rupee, that is 13 US dollars before, that is at the time of 1970. Okay, now we will see what are the harmful effects of currency devaluation. How it is related to us now. Right? It is related to us. How it is related to us? When the currency gets devalued, the oil prices rise. Because in the international market, all the goods which are sold in US dollars. You understand? Do you have any doubts? Do you have any doubts? Whatever they are sold in the international market, it is sold in only US dollars. That is called as hard currency. It is only sold in US dollars. So what will the government do? It will reserve US dollars like gold in the reserve bank. So they will never give US dollars to anyone. It will reserve it because he has to buy it, right? And 70% of oil demand. Sorry, there is 70% of oil demand from India. That is, India is producing only 30% of oil in its soil. So they have to import 70% of oil. If I am saying oil, it's not just petrol. It is everything. Petrol, diesel, LPG, crude oil, or kerosene. Sorry? Very good, mashallah. White petrol. White petrol is used for flight, aeroplanes. Very good, mashallah. F1. Jazakallah. Right? So, you have to understand this now. You have to do a small analysis. So, if the oil price is increased, what will happen to our basic commodities? Anything, any kind of thing. Even the auto fare will also increase. Now when I came by auto, the auto wala was shouting, they are increasing 50 paise per week. What will happen, sir? I will not put meter. You have to give me 60 rupees. Right? I did not say anything, I gave what I should do now. Right? So everything will increase. Everything. From the grocery shop, from the auto fare, from the bus fare, if the government increases, right? It is possible. Right? And also, at the same time, what it happens is, another major problem is our exports become cheaper. Our exports become cheaper also. Now can you compute? If the import becomes expensive, automatically our exports will become very cheap. Right? If we want to export some very good product which is not available in the whole world, for example, it will go in a very cheap price. Right? India is an agricultural land. It's a major superpower in agriculture. Unfortunately, it's not now, but it exports a lot of rice, lot of wheat, barley, and other grains, wheat grains, then all other things, if I'm not wrong. So, what happens is the exports, they become very, very cheap. Right? Okay, now a small analysis. Right? Okay, in US, now the petrol price, that is in dollars, is around $1.2. That is 1 liter is $1.2. Right? And 1 gram of gold is, just don't look at the screen, the numbers are wrong, I didn't update it because the rates are being changed. Now, in US, the gold rate is nearly about 41, sorry, this is $41. That is 1 gram. Now do a simple mathematics. Take your calculator. Multiply that 41 into 62. Do it now. Please. Or if you are very smart, you give me the answer. 2000? Yes, approx 2592. Yes. So what is the rate of 1 gram of gold? Tell me. Here in our country, 2700. So 2500. If we calculate, it gets 2500. That is according to US dollar. If we multiply, right? Our rate is 2700, right? So the cost difference is just 200. Now that will be tax. This tax, that tax. Because of the tax we get in 2700, right? So actually, if the deflation, that is the depreciation of the money, currency is not there, then we will get in the actual price. That is how many dollars? 45 US dollars. That is, if $1 is equal to 1 rupee, we will get in 45 rupees. Sorry, 41 rupees. Any doubts? Any doubts? These are very minute things. Any doubts, brothers? If one? Okay. I'll repeat it because I repeat this thing every time when I take workshops like this, because a very minute thing, right? I'll repeat again, inshallah. So in US, the gold, that is 1 gram gold, costs $41. Right? What is the price in India? 1 gram price? 1 gram of gold? 2,700. Right? What is the exchange rate? Indian exchange rate? US dollar? 62. You multiply 41 into 62. What is the rate? 2,500. Right? Plus 200. 200 is the tax. What is the answer now? 2,700. Do you get my point now? Any doubts? Yes.
Back, finance minister repeated them people not to buy the gold because of the time of devaluation. What's the reason?
Yes, it's there. I'm coming. Jazakallah. Right. So we have to pay for each gram of gold number of times to the actual price. This is the example of gold. If you take petrol also, it's the same. Now I said it's $1.2 per liter. You multiply with 60. 72. What is the price now? 1 liter of petrol, what is the price? 76. Yes, 72 plus tax gives 76. Any doubts? So we are paying more. So because we are paying more, we have to work more. Right? You have to earn more, right? Because to pay more. Yes or no? Yes. One brother asked me, sir, what if you do like this? If you go to US, we buy a lot of gold there and come here. There is import duty is there. You have to smuggle only. Right? We can't do it. Right? So this is the condition. So we have to, third world nation have to work more, right? To earn more, to buy more, right? So they have to live in luxury. That is why we see, right? People go there, within few months they buy a car there. They buy a car, right? They build a house here in India. If they go to overseas, right? That is why we are not able to buy anything here in India. If you work here as a teacher or as a basic workman, like basic job, you can't buy a house, you can't buy a car, right? You can't buy even a bike. You can't buy even a bike. That too you have to go for haram, loan. Astaghfirullah, right? So this is the reason why we can't buy. There is only two options. Whether we have to go for haram, astaghfirullah, we have to take loan, or we have to take the flight. Right? This is the reason. Okay, so we move on. So people might be saying, oh, I like foreign goods, I like foreign products because they have very good quality, they are good in looks, they have a nice finish, maybe foreign shoes. I like them. Whenever I go to Malaysia or Dubai, I buy there a pair of shoes. Okay, anything. I buy it. There I bring here. You know already that all those things are made here in India. Right? Most of you know. I'm just repeating it again. I'm not telling you something new here. Right? I'm just reminding you things, putting it in a very organized manner, and I'm giving you. That's it. Right? I'm not an expert in these things. Right? I'm just opening your eyes so that you can see the truth which is hidden. Right? All these things are there in the books also, in the curriculum, the syllabus, but they are twisted. People can't understand it. They are minute. Right? Okay. So we love foreign products. So if you look, anyone from Ambur, Vanyamadi? MashaAllah, MashaAllah. MashaAllah. Very good. So in Ambur and Vanyamadi, the shoes which they make, you know very well that where do they go? Yes, Wala? Yes, they are exported to multinational companies, the markets, the companies like Eco, Gabber, Clarks, Marks and Spencer. All these things I have been researched. I have spoken to numerous people. I am coming here. Alhamdulillah, right? So, what happened here is, because of the currency devaluation, all the raw products, the cheap labor, and the raw materials, which have very high quality, they go to the Western nation in a very cheap price. In a very cheap price. And they sell there for hundreds of dollars. The shoe, if we go to Wanambadi, Ambur, we can buy good, nice damn shoes for 500, 600, if I'm not wrong. Correct, Moana? Right? But if you just see, if you go online, like for example, you go to clarks.com, and if you see the same model, the same shoe, it will be of hundreds of dollars. If you convert it to Indian currency, it will come some around 5,600 rupees. You will be baffled. You will be very surprised. Right? When I told this truth to people, they start to cry. Right? So, what is doing there? Cheap labor is doing. Right? A nice raw materials, they are going away, and they are getting nice profits, and they are earning in millions. Now, because of us, that is because of third world nations like us, they are becoming superpowers. Their economy is running on our basis, on our shoulders. We are the makers and movers of their society. Right? So this is like slavery. Absolute slavery. So there is a massive wealth transfer that is happening from the third world nations to the Western nations, to the so-called improvised, civilized society. Right? So, what happened to the third world nations? They are becoming poorer and poorer and poorer. There is no improvement. There is no improvement or prosperity in the nation. Nothing is happening. Right? Okay, so what is happening there in Western nation is that they are already in recession. They are already in recession. You might have heard in the news, UK is in recession, Italy is in recession. Then France is in recession. Recession, you know it. You know now what is recession. There is no job. There are no jobs. There is unemployment. Right? There are no firms. There are very less firms there. There is no job opportunity. Right? It is already in recession. Okay, so we just move on to some more things about WTO. So we know what is WTO. World Trade Organization. Right? If I am going very slow, tell me, I will go fast. If I am going very slow, tell me I will go fast. It's okay? You want this space or you want more speed? Very good, mashallah. I want feedbacks. Because my students always complain me, sir, you tell things again and again, repeat that. Right? This is for children, but not for adults. Right. So, the rules are enforced on the nations by the WTO. Now, the WTO will say to the nation which has been sunk in the depths that don't give subsidy to your farmers, to your population, to your people. You would have seen in the television about the food security bill. They are fighting, that is our people, the so-called leaders are fighting in the WTO to pass the food security bill for us. Who are they to decide? The WTO people. You just go today, do a small homework. You just check what is the food security bill, which our leaders are trying to pass it in the parliament and in the WTO. So the WTO people are not allowing us to have this subsidy. Subsidy for farmers, subsidy for the people to have free food. Right? And they will tell what should be the tax rates to WTO. They will tell what is VAT, how much percent you have to put for VAT, value added tax, and because of them, we get all of these things. So what happens here is, because of WTO's rules and regulations, the domestic production, it gets a big hit. Right? Because of this, what happened was, in northern places in India, many farmers, they committed suicide because they did not get the subsidy. You know what is subsidy, right? Subsidy is a government aid to their people, to the population of the country. It's a government aid. For example, if you are buying a cylinder, the actual rate is 1,000 maybe. Government will give us subsidy 500. We will buy the cylinder only for 500 rupees. That you know that, I hope. Right? So the government should give subsidy to the farmers as well. So the farmers did not get the subsidy. So eventually they went to the banks. They went to the banks. They got loans. They were not able to pay the loans. Then they committed suicides. Thousands of farmers. If the farmers die, what will we eat? Yes, it's very dangerous. And what did Umar, what did he prescribe to the Sahaba? Don't get taxes from the farmers in Iraq. If you get the taxes, if you overburden them, then the production from the agriculture will get a big hit. So they were left. But they had to give the kharaj, it's very less tax, right? That is jizya, I'm saying. They gave the kharaj, land tax. Right? So, because of these rules, our domestic production decreases. Okay, when the domestic production decreases, our dependence on foreign products increases. Now we have to rely on foreign national companies, MNCs. We have to rely on MNCs. Now if we eat MNC food, if we wear MNC clothes, there is lot of danger because they load the food with preservatives, with harmful chemicals, and all those things are there. If we start to discuss these things, another 2 hours will take, because this alone is a different subject about the food which we eat. Inshallah, later on, if time permits, I will take presentation on that also. Right? So, this is the harmful effects of WTO. Another one is heavy taxes. So, how many kinds of taxes we have? We have income tax, direct tax, corporate tax, VAT tax, right? We have hundreds of kinds of tax, right? All these things are there to pay back the loans to the banks, which you have got from them, right? So all these are the negative part. So who are the sufferers? Eventually we are the sufferers, the common man, right? So now we move on to the most important part, which is more interesting, and I request more attention from you. Jazakallah khair. So, from where do these banks get this huge amount of money? Millions of billions, trillions of dollars.
from where do these banks get? No idea. Right? Anyone?
Our tax. Our tax.
Tax or tax?
Riba.
Very good wrong answer. Yes. MNCs. Excellent wrong answers. Sorry?
Each company.
Killing the nation. Very good wrong answers. I want more and more wrong answers.
Each company. Each company.
Which companies? Excellent wrong answer.
By riba. By our ribas.
It is a part of answer. Sorry, brother. Sorry? Reserve Bank. Excellent wrong answer. Okay. From the public, yes. Jazakallah. So, these are all part of the answers. Right? So, we are going to see more staggering, surprising, and heartbreaking reality here. Okay, so we are going to do some study on the banks. Right? Inshallah. So, what is the job of a bank? What is its job? Anyone? What's the main occupation of a bank? What it does?
They get the
Savings. Very good. Savings.
savings
Savings.
money is given to the loan.
Transfer. Loans.
They get the riba money.
Savings of money. Savings of gold, silver, anything. Right? Jewelry.
They transfer to the
Yeah.
loan.
Then transfer it. So many people, for example, I spoke with many our Ikhwan. I spoke about the dangers of riba. Right? If we deposit our money in the banks, we don't know what they're doing with our money. Maybe they are lending our money to people. So mostly they say there is no other way because we have to have a quick transfer of money. We want to send from here to US, or if someone wants to send from US to here, what is the other way? Tell me. How can you do a quick transfer? So here is where we have locked up. There is no other way. I spoke to a bank manager, he's a Muslim. He told this to me. What is the other way? Tell me. He started to fight with me. Right? I told him, I don't know brother, maybe I'll find the other way. Maybe inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will guide us. Right? But for present time I don't have any account in the banks, he said. Then I moved on. Right? I just wanted to share with you this thing, this story. Right? So we move on to this thing now. So the main functions of the banks is to transfer the money, to store the money, and to give loans. Right? Correct? We move on. So, most of us believe that the bank that lends us money is only from the people we deposit. It's only from the people that we have deposit. That is, if I deposit 100 rupees in the bank, now that 100 rupees will be not there in the bank always. It might be given to someone as a loan on interest. Now your money will be used for interest, to gain interest by the banks. Right? You become a part of the system. Right? Next. But it is not so. It is just a part of an answer. Right? It do happens. But more than that. Right? It happens more than that. What they do is, I think you won't believe it if I say this. Right? And if you want, you can go and refer the books. Right? I will prescribe the books. You can go and do a lot of homework. Right? Inshallah. So the banks, what they do is, when there is a demand for money, that is loans, right? When there is a demand of loans, they create fiat money. F-I-A-T. Fiat money. Right? The fiat money is nothing. It is declared by a government as a legal money, which has been created out of nothing. Created out of nothing. For example, right? You are depositing 100 rupees. Right? Now 12 rupees will be kept in the deposit by the bank. What is the remaining? 80? 8. So 80 rupees they will take from your deposited money. They will add some 100 more to it. Just strokes on the computer. They will add some more 100 rupees to it. Just few strokes on the computer. Just typing, just simply. They will make it 110 88, and they will lend it to the borrower. Let's say, finish. So, what happens here? An extra 100 rupees is coming into the system from nowhere. From nowhere. Subhanallah. This is the system, and it is happening today. Now, according to Islam, to earn money, there are only two ways which are halal. You can ask any scholar. I have spoke with many scholars. I am not coming here and telling my thing here. There are only two ways. One is honest labor. The other one is honest trade. Either you have to do job, that is you should have to be an employee, or you should have to be a businessman. Right? So there are only two ways. Right? All other ways are haram, like gambling, riba, right? And many other things are there. Right? All other things are haram. Cheating, right? Gambling, riba, right? So, what is riba? Making money over money. Riba is making money over money. It is very simple. Just analyze. What is riba? Someone is giving 100 rupees to someone, right? He is giving a time, or he is telling, when you are giving back, I want 10%, 20% riba. Yes, sir? Yes, sir. Any doubt? Yes. Right? So, money over money is haram or halal?
Haram.
Haram. It's haram. It's a gunah kabira. It's a big sin. Right? And the final punishment is hellfire. Right? So, money over money is haram. That is riba, actually. What is happening here in the system? How new money is created?
Out of nothing.
Out of nothing. Right? Not out of nothing. Maybe you are giving some money, they are making money over money. Right? And also for that they will get the loan, or they will get the interest also. They created 100 rupees from nothing, they gave 188 rupees, and for that they will get the riba, that is interest also, maybe 9%, 10%, right? So this is the system. Now the money which is created out of nothing is called as fiat money. Right? So we move on. Right? So, what happens when the national or central banks fall short in money, they borrow it from the international banks on interest. Right? There is a lot of flow. People are coming and they demand a lot of money from the banks. Now they have a shortage. Now this method which I told you, it restricts to only a certain percent. That is, I told you, right? For 88 rupees, they added 100 rupees. It restricts for a certain limit. Now there is a lot of demand. More and more people are coming and asking for loans. Now what they do is the banks themselves, they borrow from central banks. Maybe from World Bank or from IMF. Now World Bank might support HDFC. Or tell me some other banks. Axis Bank. ICICI. Right? And so and so and so. So they might help them. So, from where the money comes to the World Bank and the IMF and the central banks, the same chapter. It's the same. So, they also do the same. They put some scopes on the computer, new money is created, and it is shifted in the system. That's it. Over. So, the money, they have divided money, two kinds of money. That is, money created by the local banks is called as the credit money. Money created by central banks is called as the base money. Now, as much as base money comes, more and more credit money is created. Any doubts?
Who have the authority to stroke it?
The bankers, they have.
Any bank can
Every bank can take it. All the local banks.
Yes. Okay, so we move on. Okay, this is so. I will not go into more details. Right? It's very difficult to understand. So confusing. So the 97% of money in the world is in digital form. It's not in notes. It's in digital form. It's in hard disk. It's in the mainframe computers. Only the 3% of the money is there in our pockets, in our purse, in our wallets. The 97% where it is? It is in the hard disk, right? So we move back to history now. So before some 70 years, how was the money? It was in the form of gold coins and silver coins. The gold coin was the dinar and the silver coin was the dirham. So this is the real money. Can anyone make a gold coin from out of nothing? Can anyone make a silver coin from nothing? Who can make it? Who can bring something out of nothing? Someone is there, right? Who can do it? Who is that? Allah, yes, the Creator. Only Allah can do it. The creatures, His creation can't do it, right? It's a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is why people chose gold as a money, silver as a money, because people can't cheat, right? But even in that, people start to cheat. They start to add copper to it in gold coins. In some nations, in Roman Empire, in Assyrian Empire, they start to add copper in them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He dismantled their empires just because of this cheating, just because of this robbery, right? Because robbing a currency is like robbing everyone, right? So the real money is gold and silver. There is dinar and dirham. So you can see in the picture. Oh, you're not able to see. Okay, so no problem. So there was dinar in the Abbasid Khilafah, Abbasiya, there is Abbasid Caliphate. There was dirham in Abbasid Caliphate. There was dinar and dirham even in European empires. In European empires, even in India. Even in India in the 12th century, gold and silver coins were being used. You would have read in newspaper somewhere that a treasure was found and the government seized it and went away. Right? Why did the government seize it? Why does the government want gold and silver? Because it has to reserve, because that is real money. This is not real money which are being having in the wallet. That is just a paper. Someone has given to a value, that is why we are using. Or else it's just an ordinary paper. Right? So the gold and silver, the dinar and dirham are the real money. These are the real money. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَمِنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ مَنْ إِنْ تَأْمَنْهُ بِقِنْطَارٍ يُوَدِّهِ وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ إِنْ تَأْمَنْهُ بِدِينَارٍ لَا يُوَدِّهِ بِدِينَارٍ. Now this dinar is mentioned in the Holy Quran. Dirham is also mentioned in the Holy Quran. In Surah Yusuf, that was Surah Al-Imran. In Surah Yusuf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَشَرَوْهُ بِثَمَنٍ بَخْسٍ كَانَ دَرَاهِمَ مَعْلُومٍ. This is about Yusuf alayhi salam. When they sold him in the market, Egyptian market, they sold him for a few measly silver coins. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says he was more than that in worth. Right? So dinar is mentioned in the Holy Quran, dirham is mentioned in the Holy Quran, and in the time of Khulafa Rashidi, in the time of Islamic State, dinar and dirham was used. And Umar, radiyallahu anhu, he standardized the dinar. That is, its shape, its weight, right? And its standard. So the standard was 4.25 grams of dinar. And even silver is standardized. So people used to have this real money with them. Another thing which we used was called as bartering. Now bartering is nothing. See, you have sugar, I have dates. I want sugar from you. So I have dates. I will give dates to you, you give me sugar. Exchange. This is called as bartering. So there were 5 commodities which they use generally, like barley, wheat, sugar, dates, for this bartering system. Why they use? Because these things have a longer shelf life. Longer shelf life. What is longer shelf life? That is, they have a very, very long expiry date. They have a very long expiry date. Right? They don't get rotten or they don't get spoiled very soon. Right? So, dinar, dirham, it's mentioned in the Holy Quran. Sahaba used it. It was used in the Islamic State. It was used in all over the world, in many civilizations, in all the civilizations, and the paper note just came before 70 years. That's it. Right? Just after the World War II. Right. So, how did the coins, they became paper note? That's again one question. How did it happen? If I am boring you, tell me. Am I boring you? Is it interesting? Yes, Alhamdulillah. So, what happened was, in the 18th century, in Europe, people, they became tired of these coins, gold coins and silver coins, and became tired of robbers, because they would rob them easily. So, they went to some goldsmiths. Eventually, they happened to be the Jews. They went to the people of Yahud. Yahud, they are always wealthy. They always have a lot of wealth with them. They are the most wealthiest people, even today. So they went to them, they said, can you save our money in your locker? He has to have had a locker as well as he was a goldsmith, the Jew. Can you store our money? Right? Because it is very difficult to carry, it's not safe, it's very dangerous, there is a doubt of lost. Okay, so he agreed, and what he did was, when he got the money, that is dinar or dirham, he kept in the locker, and he gave him a receipt check. That is, I have your maybe some 10 gold coins with me, that is, which belongs to you. You can redeem it, that is, you can get it back whenever you want. That's your wish. So he gave a receipt. So what happened? It became a craze. People came and they wanted to have this kind of money. They didn't want gold and silver because it is safe in his locker, and they can also carry this wallet with them without any problem. Always they have to have sacks of gold coins and silver coins. So as soon what happened was, it became a craze. Everyone started to have their notes instead of their gold coins, their checks. It is called as IOU. This check is called as IOU. It means I owe you to pay. Right? I owe you. These IOUs became very popular. Right? It became money in the market. In the market, people start to ask for IOUs instead of coins. And even people start to sell the wallets in the market to have the IOUs inside the wallets. So it became a trend, it became a fashion. And what happened here in the locker was, since the wars, the colonial rule started, the Europeans, when they went out of the country, they never came back, and the gold was there in the lockers for years and years. So this gold merchant, he had an idea. Why shouldn't I use the gold? Because it is staying there. No one is coming to redeem also. The owners are not coming at all. They are happy with the IOUs. Some of them have gone forever. So why can't I use? So what he said was that he would give loans to the people. Right? He would lend these coins to the people as a good loan. So people came to get the loans. When they came, he gave in the form of, again, IOU. He did not give them gold coins. He gave them IOUs. So he became crazy. He became very greedy, and he started to print IOUs more than the gold which was there in the wallet, which was there in the locker. So, for example, 10 gold coins are there. There should be 10 IOUs. For example, he printed some 100 IOUs, or maybe 1,000 IOUs. Again, money out of nothing. Money out of nothing. So what happened was, when these IOUs spread, right? When these IOUs spread, people start to have many IOUs, notes, right? The prices start to rise, right? There is one concept in economics, that is, money should be equal to the goods. If money is very much big, if money is in large numbers than the goods, then automatically there will be an inflation. There will be an inflation. You just remember this. If we start explaining this, again half an hour will take. It's a theory. It's just as a theory, it's a proved one. Right? So what happened was, so there was an inflation in the market, and the banker, there is a new banker, he became a very wealthy man. He started to build buildings, and the people started to suspect whether he is using their money to become rich. So at once, what happened? The whole public came to the banker and started to ask their gold with their IOUs. Now they are having more IOUs now. Gold is very less. Now what happened was, he was caught. He was caught, then he was punished, right? And this system, it got crippled and it was stopped. But still, these people, they were very sharp, very clever. They wanted to have this system again because it is making them wealthy, right? It is making them more and more wealthy in a very few days. So they wanted to have this system. What they did was, they established central banks. In the central banks, there will be a lot of gold reserve. So whenever they got a shortage of gold, the central banks will supply them gold, so that they give the gold to the people who are coming to them to exchange the IOUs for the gold. Any doubts? Right? So central banks, they have established, they have their local banks, right? So this system was running, but there was one problem, one big problem. The problem was that they became more greedier. They wanted to earn more and more. They wanted to have more and more gold. But you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created gold in a limited manner. And it is not easy to find gold. You have to go and search in the mines, right? What if they find something which is very easy to create? Paper. Yes. What is the secret behind it? It's very simple. It's clear. Right? So what happened was, they wanted to have something else instead of gold, so that they make something out of nothing. That is the money out of nothing. So they did not implement it until after the World War II. If you go to history books, you would know the world was in a very disastrous condition after World War II. Right? And who was the superhero in World War II? Can anyone tell me? Absolutely wrong answer. Superhero. Very good, mashallah. Who said? Very good. The superhero was the United States. He saved the whole Europe against the deadly hands of Hitler. He saved the Jews from the deadly hands of Hitler. So everyone, they accepted US as their savior. All the nations, their delegates went to US and they start to ask solutions for many problems. So at that time, the United States, they formed a lot of committees, like the UN, like the NATO, right? Like many others. At the same time, they created IMF. At the same time, they created World Bank, in the name of aiding the nations who have become crippled because of the wars. So the first customer of that bank was Britain. It gave a lot of gold to United States and got these checks. These checks are nothing but US dollars. These checks are nothing but US dollars. Now they got a US dollar, right? Now you know the whole world was under colonial rule. You take any country, India, any African country, any Middle East country, they were under the colonial rule of European nations. You have to recall your history chapters, right? So when they got these dollars, right, these paper money, they implemented the same in all the nations. Even in African nations, in Asian nations, in Middle East nations, they implemented the dollar like the gold. Right? They implemented the dollar everywhere. Now when they left the countries, when the colonial rule was over, they left the dollars there and they told you have to print your own currency of belonging to your nation on the basis of the dollar you have, not on the gold. Any doubts? You have to print your notes on the basis of dollar, not gold. Because they have only dollar, they don't have gold. All the gold is where? With US. Not with US, I'm sorry. With the banks. With the international banks. Right? Even US is their slave. You just saw $16 trillion. Right? The US citizens are paying taxes. Right? They are working hard. They have to go to the military. They have to fight. Right? They are the slaves also. Right? They have to die for someone there in Afghanistan and Iraq. Right? So, what is happening here? Everything that is the currency of their nation is backed up by dollar. Right? And the dollar is backed up by gold that is in IMF, in the banks. Now what happened was, after some years, many nations like Britain, I just told you, Britain were the first to get the checks. Like Britain, France, many nations got their checks by giving gold or silver or any precious metal. Right? So they got their checks, right? Now they saw that United States especially, it is becoming a wealthy nation. You have to compare with the merchant again, the goldsmith, which did the cheating job in Europe. Now the United States, they became wealthy. They are having battles everywhere in the world. Laos, Cambodia, Africa, maybe in some Middle East nation. They are everywhere around the world. They are wealthy, they are powerful. They thought of this, they might be using our reserves, our gold. So they went back. All the European nations, they went back to the United States and they started to ask gold. Right? They started to ask the gold. Now, United States, they took off their hands and said, now the dollar is not backed up by gold. Now the dollar is not backed up by gold. Now this is called as the Nixon shock. You can go and check in the Wikipedia. It is clearly mentioned that what is the Nixon shock. It happened in the 1970s. Sorry, not in the 1970s. 1 minute. Yeah, 1971. In 1971, it was declared that the dollar is not backed up by the gold anymore. Why did they say this? Any smart answer? Sorry? Very good. And gold was there? No. No oil of gold was there. Right? So they can't give their gold because there is no gold itself. They used it. The resource was used for the wars, for the battles, for building their infrastructures. Finished. Right? So when this rule came, it implemented where? Worldwide, because all the currencies are based upon what? Dollar, right? Which was created out of nothing, right? So in our banks, reserve banks, as a reserve, we have a lot of dollars, not gold. Very less gold, but 75% maybe it is just dollars, right? So this rule was implemented in 1970s, right? And it was called as the Nixon shock. Okay, so eventually, now this is one formula. Debt, that is loan, is equals to money. When there is a loan, when there is a demand for new loan, a new money has been created in the system. Whenever someone goes and gets a loan from the bank, a new money is created. So the vast majority of the money which the banks create is nothing but the fiat money, right? It is created out of nothing. So that is why they created these credit cards, right? There should be no time waste. Okay? People have to just swipe and get their money or get loans so that new money is created in the system, right? So that is why they created this credit card. So what the bankers say? Now Graham covers a person, he was a governor of a bank in Canada. He says, each and every time a bank makes a loan, new bank credit is created. New deposits, new brand money. Right? So, okay, now I am telling you a small formula here in a very short manner. Right? So, when there is a lot of money in the system, right? When there is a lot of flow of money in the system, there is automatic inflation in the market. Because as I said it before, the number of money should be equal to the number of products. Right? If the money increases, if there is a lot of money, right, and very few products, the products will become costly. Right? So this is the formula. Okay, it's a basic theory, proven theory, it is taught in economics. Right? So the money supply, if you could see there, the money supply should be equal to the number of prices. It should be equal. Right? If the money supply is more, then the prices will rise. And the money which they have created, the bankers, they have created only the principal. Right? For example, if 100 rupees is got, if someone borrowed 100 rupees, right, the interest is 10%, they have to give how much? 110. Now in the system, that 10% interest which they have to give back is not there. This is just an example. So interest money, that ratio is not there in the system. So eventually anyone or any nation will not be able to pay the money back to the bankers. What will happen? They will seize the property. Whatever they have, they will just seize. Because of this, what happened? The bankers have become the most wealthiest people in the planet. The thing is, they have not been shown. It is not there in the media. They are the wealthiest people. They are just a few handful of people. 300 maybe. Just 6 families who live around the world. Right? So, another thing I am telling you is what? Hyperinflation. That is, more money is equals to more money. Sorry, more money is equals to more problem. But it's called as hyperinflation. That is, hyperinflation is like a crazy inflation. As I told you, that prices of even very basic commodities will increase each hour, maybe each minute, for egg, for bread, like that. It happened in the history. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples, inshallah. So what happened was, that is after World War II, when Hitler was there, right? That is before Hitler could take his post. This is post-Hitler history. After World War II, sorry, World War I. Sorry. So what happened was, the German government, they had a meeting with other countries, Belgium, France, and they agreed to pay for the destruction, for the disaster which they did to Belgium and France. Right? They agreed to pay for the repercussions. So what happened was, the German government did not have that much money to pay back to Belgium and France, right? And they started to print money like crazy in the mint. They start to print money out of nothing. What will happen eventually? Hyperinflation. Now you see, maybe you can't see it. So here you have a 50 million German note. 50 million German currency note. 50 million. Right? A 50 million German note. So in 1st November 1923, the price of 1 pound of bread cost around 3 billion. The price of 1 pound of meat costed around 36 billion. So within few hours, the prices they raised until it became billions of money. So this is what happened. This is called hyperinflation. In hyperinflation, what happened was people's salary became like a penny. A person who would have got 60,000 rupees, that's Indian currency, it was worth nothing. They couldn't buy even an egg. Right? And what happened to the fixed salaries? It became worse. Rising prices means it is a deadliest thing. The supermarkets will be empty, nothing will be there because the owners of the supermarkets they itself will take away their goods because they have to stock for their families. No one will sell anything because the prices is like hell. So it will be like a drought, almost like a drought. No one will sell anything. High inflation, very high inflation, right? So at that time what happened was, if you could see this picture, a lady, since she could not buy a log of food to fire her stove, she took a big bundle of notes, currency, to burn her stove. Right? And if you could see, people start to play bricks game using the notes, bundles. The children, they start to play with the bundles because it was of no use. They can't buy it, anything. And people, they brought their salaries in the trolleys to their home, full of cash. Still, it was worthless, right? So this is what happened. Then what happened was, finally, they got a loan from the multinational banks, and they brought a new currency. The previous currency, which was called as Reach Bank, it was dead. They just put that currency in the dustbin and they brought a new currency called as the Renton Mark, and that too getting loans from the international bankers. This happened in 1923. It had happened even just before some 8 years in Zimbabwe. In Zimbabwe, the price for 3 eggs became $100 billion. 100 billion. The price for a bread became $1 trillion. 3 eggs, $100 billion. A bread, trillions of dollars, right? And they had a $100 trillion note. $100 trillion note. They had to change their currency 3 times, right? 3 times, right? 2 times, sorry, 2 times. And what happened? 80% of poverty in the nation. 80% of poverty in the nation, right? What they did was, I saw in the news recently, history channel, they started to dig the ground to search gold because they started to make gold as a mine. They started to dig mines, they themselves. And one man, he gave an interview, he said, if you had to live for the day, I have to find a small piece of gold. Right? So, this is what hyperinflation is. Now, you can ask me a doubt now. Right? You can ask me a doubt if you have a lot of analytical thinking that, okay, so US dollars is there, right? They are printing. So much of printing is happening. Why this hyperinflation is not happening in the United States, where it is the national currency? Right? You might ask me a question. Right? I asked you a question. Since you didn't ask, I asked you a question. Now the dollars is there everywhere around the globe, right? Why US is not having a hyperinflation? How it is supported? How it is backed up? Sorry? Maybe, I don't know. But it's all economics, it's all max, right? See, got the gold? No, they don't have gold. China has the number 1 gold reserve, right? China has the number 1 gold reserve.
After 30 years before a world war in China, not that.
Maybe, right? So the answer is, most of us we don't. It is called as petrodollar scam. Petrodollar scam. Now I told you one thing, a very basic fundamental, basic principle of economics, right? In order to have a constant rates in the market, how should be the currency to the goods? Equal. Right? It should be equal. Right? If the goods are less and the currency is more in the market, what will happen to the price in the market? Inflation will happen. Right? So it is what happened today also. Here in our nation. Right? Now what they did was, US, what they have to do? Either they have to print less, or they should have more goods, more and more and more goods, right? They will not stop printing. That is a fact. They will not stop printing. They can't stop it printing, right? Because it is not controlled by US also. It is controlled by the international banks. The printing of US dollars, it will not be stopped, right? So what is the other thing which they can do? They have to have more products, right? They have to have more products, right? So in order to have more products, they have to have more people using the US dollar, right? So what they did was, Henry Kissinger was a minister, maybe I think he was a finance minister of US. He went to King Faisal Rahimahullah in 1973. At that time, Saudi was hostile to Israel. They had a kind of a war-like situation. And Saudi was desperate to have good military equipments, good technology to challenge Israel. So Henry Kissinger, he approached King Shah Faisal, and he told him, I can help you. Right? I can help you by providing military training, equipments, technology, anything you need. But I have one condition. What is that? Only one condition. Now at that time, in 1973, the Saudis, they were not so sophisticated. Right? No sophisticated lives. They lived in the tents. Their transport means were camels. They did not have good knowledge of dunyawiyah, but in deen, alhamdulillah, they were number one. They had sharia. But according to the dunya, they did not have a single drop of knowledge. So the king, he agreed the condition. The condition was, you have to sell all of your oil. At that time, the oil fields were discovered. They were pumping oils. The oil which you sell to other nations, it should be sold in US dollars, not in any other currency. Now do you understand the trick here? Now the US dollars will spread all over the world. All the nations will start asking for US dollars because all are dependent on oil. Without oil, our vehicles can't run. The transportation facility will go down. Right? So Azan will happen here in a few seconds. We will continue after Azan. Sorry.
حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So I was telling you that the United States, Henry Kissinger, the Minister of United States, he approached King Shah Faisal and he had this agreement that he would sell oil only for US dollars. So because of this, the US dollar, it became a hard currency. A lot of demand grew for US dollar. Everyone were crazy. All the nations were crazy for US dollar because they wanted to have oil for the transport facility, for the infrastructure. So the demand for US dollar increased. So the equation was equal now. That is the principle which I told you. The number of the currency should be equal to the number of goods. So until today, there is no hyperinflation in the United States. So this was a great trick did by Henry Kissinger. So I am moving fast now because we have only 15 minutes, hardly 15 minutes for the Salah, right? So this is the story here. Okay, just because of this condition, United States is stable, the economy of the United States is stable. There is no hyperinflation in their market. And what was the gain for the Gulf countries? Now, not just Saudi Arabia, all the Middle East nations who are pumping the oil, they are selling oil for US dollars. Oman, Kuwait, or any other Middle East nation except Iraq when it was under Saddam Hussein. But now it is pumping oil for US dollars. Right? So, what they achieved, the Middle East, you might be seeing the picture. Oh, it is not even. Right, in 1950s, the Saudis, the Arabs were very peacefully living people, having their traditional lives, like how the Sahabas lived. Right? But now, that is today, it has been changed into a Western society, a kind of Western society where they have all luxuries, skyscrapers, right? They have very luxurious cars, they have very luxurious lives just because of this petrol oil. Because they have petrol, they get these dollars flowing like rain from all the nations, right? So because of that, they became rich, right? And it's a prophecy of Prophet ﷺ. He said that the signs of the last day is that the barefoot, the shepherd people will build tall buildings, skyscrapers. And in another hadith, Rasul ﷺ, he specified who are the people. He said these are the Arabs, right? This is the Sahih hadith authenticated by Sheikh Al-Albani. Now the dollar became the reserve currency, right? Reserve currency means it is all the national currencies are backed up by dollar, right? It's not backed up by gold. Then it became the hard currency. Hard currency, it means nations cannot trade with each other except with dollars, right? That is, for example, India is buying oil from Iran. It can't exchange for something, but they have to sell oil, right? Now, what is happening is many nations like Russia, China, they are leaving the dollar system, right? They are creating their own bartering system. That is, China gives something to India, India gives something to China, right? India needs oil, for example, it is getting oil from China, and China is getting from some medicines, and vice versa. It is happening with Iran as well. It is happening with Russia also, They are exchanging the goods, exchanging the technologies, not doing trade in US dollars. Now this is a war against US dollar. What will happen to US then? If it is not being done? Hyperinflation. MashaAllah, you have understood. So this is a day of success for me. Right, so hyperinflation will happen there. That is why the US, it has to be friendly with Russia, China, India. It has to bring back the system, it will fight for them. And unfortunately, our people are not united. That is why he fought, that is US fought with Iraq, Libya, because why? Saddam Hussein said, I won't sell oil for dollars. And so Gaddafi, he said, I will not sell oil in dollars. I'm not telling these are very pious, very religious people, but their policies, because of their policies, they got the hit from US. Right? They got the hit because of their policies, not of the religious commitments. Right? And Venezuela, it got many sanctions. Right? Sanction is like a war-like condition where they put sanctions. Now, if any country it has sanctions, it can't buy medicine from any nation, it can't buy oil from any nation, it has to suffer. Children has to die without any medicine, without any drugs, without any cure. It is happening in Iran as well, because Iran also wants something else for its petrol. It wants to sell its petrol in dollars. Right? This is what happening in the world. So it's a World War III like situation now. Right? So, as I said, because of this, US attacked Iraq and it's threatening Iran now. It is imposing sanctions on Venezuela, on Iran, like that. So, if we see, the bankers are the wealthiest people in the world, and their count is very less. 2/3 of the world's money does not lie in the hands of 50% population of the world, not even 10%. It lies with only 0.15% of the world's population. It's just a group of 6 families, maybe 300 people. They are owning how much? 1/3 of the total amount, right? So 99.85% of the world population relies on only pennies. They have only very few wealth, right? And if you see, these are only the Jews. And even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentions in the Holy Quran that they are the most greediest people in the world. The most greediest people. Right? If they have the upper hand, what they will do to us? This is what happening is. This is not happening in today's world. So, and finally I want to tell you, again I want to refresh your memory. I want to recall that ayah which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Yamhaqullahu riba wa yurbis sadaqat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will destroy riba and He will increase the sadaqah, the charity, the system of charity. The system of charity which we have lost. It's our property. It's our system. We have lost. How many Baitul Mals we have? How many Alagiya Kadan service do we have? Very less. Very less. We don't care. Right? But we are happy to deposit our money in the banks. We are happy to help the system. Support the system. The niyyah, that is my niyyah here in this presentation is only to give awareness. Is only to open your eyes and see what is happening today. What is the reality? And you have to do your homework. You shall go to home and you have to think, you have to ponder how you can create a microeconomic system. There are many economic systems run by our Muslim brothers, Muslim organizations. We have to approach them. We have to approach them. We have to see the system, how it works. Then we have to create our own, with our own hands. Right? I did not show you such a system. How can we start a small microeconomic system? Because I want you to take participate, to take the steps and do it. Right? So this is the history. This is the part of the history. And as I tell you, the solution for this cancer is only the Quran charity system. Zakat as well as Sadaqat. And we should have a free interest economy. and we should establish the dinar and dirham system. This is very, very difficult, right? Very, very difficult. Is it very difficult? It doesn't happen. It can't happen today. It has happened. Today in Malaysia, 2 of the states are using dirham and dinar. And to your surprise, there is one state in United States, Utah, UTAH. They are using dinar and dirham standard. You can go and check in YouTube, or you can ask people who are there in US. In Utah, they have started using dinar and dirham, gold and silver coins, and it is very popular in Malaysia also. So it has started. So we have to start. We have to study economics, Islamic economics especially. I'm not here to tell you to start an Islamic bank here, right? That's a different concept, right? So I don't advocate Islamic banking, but I advocate Baitul Mal, the Islamic treasury, for helping the poor and needy. What is bank? Can you give me a definition of a bank? Why do you use banks? To deposit our money, to transfer the money, right? But it is not for the sole purpose to help the poor and needy, right? No. Baitul Mal is the organization which is based upon helping the poor and needy, right? So for that we have to work, inshallah. And what is the guideline which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives in the Holy Quran? That the money should not circulate in the hands of the rich people. It should circulate at the hands of poor and needy. So what is happening today? The money is circulating only among the poor people. It is not going to the hands of the poor and needy. Right? So we have to make some system. We have to take steps to do this. Right? So with this, I finished my talk. So my last tips for you, right? Very important tips is to preserve your money. How do you preserve it? By purchasing gold, silver, and any asset, any kind of land. So you invest in those things. Because if you have your paper money or you have your bank accounts, slowly the money will erode because the value is leaking. Each and every day you see the dollar value is increasing. Right? Rapidly it is increasing. So maybe what happened in the Germany, the people who had lakhs of money, it became just paper. They became bankrupt. In Germany, in 1923, right? They became bankrupt. They came on the roads protesting. The bankers, they ran away. That's it, finished, lost. There was no other way just to end their lives. They did suicides, right? Because everything is lost, right? So we have to start to save our money by buying gold, buying silver, buying lands, right? And telling this to others as well, right? To convey this message to others as well. But I don't say that you should never have cash. You should have cash, but only to manage your expenses, manage your home, right? Then, one more important thing, which is the most last thing which I want to say and conclude my talk here, is we have to hate this system. We have to hate this banking, this riba-based banking system from the depth of our hearts. From the depth of our hearts, we have to hate it. Right? We have to hate it. Many shuyukh, they have given a fatwa that a person should not indulge in banking system unless and until there is an alternative. So we have to find that alternative. If you don't find that alternative, then we are sinners. If we are just sitting and with the okay with the system, oh, there is no other way, we have to deposit our money, there is no other way, we can't fight it, then it's bad. So we have to search for some solutions. It's there, we have to knock the doors. Right? So I conclude my talk. Jazakallah khair for sitting patiently and listening my speech and to this presentation. I thank you all for participating in this conference. Jazakallah khair wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum.